try to teach other doctors about more natural methods and what have you.
Yeah.
And that's what I face when I try to share with other doctors the research, the new research on.
So you know how you have had the experience, so you know, but your words aren't enough for them to know? That's what we just said to you about meditation too.
I understand.
We know that so much, and until you let yourself do that. And so we're asking of you what you're asking of those other doctors. Because this is the hardest thing for humans, is that your reality seems so real. It is changeable, but it seems so real. And so as doctors or anyone just keep looking at what is, they don't allow for the new to be experienced. And that's why we want to shout at you, because we feel it so strongly that what is the thing that is preventing you from the improved what will be. But once you understand how it all works, once you accept that there really is a vibrational reality and it is real, because that's all you're asking of those doctors, give your attention to the promise of what is and stop only looking at what is. And if you'll give your attention to the promise of what is, it will show up in your experience and in a lot of others too, you see. So if we were standing in your physical shoes and we were wanting to express to doctors or anyone who are resistant, we would not practice the thought that there are so many who won't listen. We would practice the thought that there are those who want to hear, and that your inner being knows where they are and is showing them to you. Yeah. We want to say that there isn't anything that we've said to you that you don't know. There isn't anything that we've said to you that you haven't considered. But you've got the hard job, dear humans. You've got the hard job. You're out here in the trenches. Here's the thing. There's a little irony in this. And if you can hear this, it's going to free you in a whole new way. This is the irony in it. You're here living the leading edge, living the manifestation. And then we come along and we say, thanks for living the manifestation, and thanks for creating a whole new reality that will make for new manifestations. But don't be so stuck in what you've already created. Look over here for a little while. And you say, it's difficult because what's already manifested is so vivid. And what's over there is not vivid. And we say, that's your job. You've got to make the vibrational reality more vivid to you. Just by accepting its realness, by feeling for it, by listening for clues from your inner being. And before you know it, that vibrational reality will show itself to you in so many ways. Our best story about this, many of you have heard it so many times you could repeat it back to us. Years ago, Esther was doing a telephone consultation, allowing Abraham to speak with a woman. She was not enjoying the conversation because we wanted to teach her how to create her own reality, and she wanted a fortune teller, more or less. And so we said to her, let's talk about something else, because she couldn't hear us at all, like your doctor friends. So we said, let's talk about blue glass. And it was just so annoying to her. But we persisted, and for over a minute, we described blue glass. Different colors, different textures, different depths of colors. Some you see through, some you can't see through. And she was grumbling all through our conversation. And then we said, now let's talk about something else. Like what? Let's talk about butterflies. That was equally annoying to her. But we persisted. We described butterflies, sizes, colors, varieties. She's still grumbling. Then we said, now let's talk about feathers. She didn't hang up yet, right after. For over a minute, we talked about feathers, and then she was gone. Jerry, who was with Esther at the time, did not hear the conversation. He was in another room. Esther doesn't hear it when she is allowing Abraham to speak. She doesn't hear it as you hear it, as you're sitting in the room. She listens back if she wants to really hear from her Esther perspective. So they were in San Diego, and they went to La Jolla for lunch. And as they parked the car, they got out of the car, and Esther felt this impulse to go into a store. Now, that's not unusual for Esther, but the timing of it was unusual because they'd come for lunch and they were both hungry and ready to eat, and yet Esther is dragging Jerry into this store and in to a very back room, and on the back wall was a wall of blue glass, ceiling to floor. And Jerry and Esther were not either one interested in blue glass, and Esther didn't think anything of it, and Jerry didn't either, and off they went to lunch. They had lunch, and then they went down to the cove in La Jolla, beautiful, beautiful spot. And as they were walking across this apron of grass, a flurry of butterflies so intense that they had to stop talking, which was rare for them. They had to stop talking so that they did not eat butterflies. Esther still did not make the association, and Jerry didn't either. And then a little boy came running from across the way, looking at them, and Jerry said to Esther, "He looks like he knows you." And Esther said, "I know." And he handed Esther a feather when he got up to her. A feather. And so within a couple of hours of these three subjects that hold no resistance in Esther's vibration, within a couple of hours, all three of them had manifested in particularly powerful and unique ways. So the point of the story is, when you think of something with no resistance, it's going to come to you immediately. When you think of something with resistance, to the degree of your resistance, it can't come. So the irony is that the very proof that you seek is all balled up in the beliefs that you hold. And yet law of attraction is at the heart of the beliefs that you hold. So the key to changing beliefs is just to find something off the subject altogether and allow yourself to just hold the thought softly, and then to watch the speed and the efficiency with which the universe provides the ready to be ready to be ready to be ready to be ready to the full-blown manifestation of it. To the full-blown manifestation of it. When you think about it, that's a pretty astonishing story. That three subjects that are rather unique could happen in such profound fashion. In other words, a stranger bringing a feather. How often does that happen to you? Once? Butterflies so intense that you have to stop talking. Maybe not that unusual, but in this particular incident, it was awesome. So many butterflies. So illogical. They weren't anywhere else. They were just following Jerry and Esther around. A flurry of butterflies. Blue glass. A wall of blue glass. Maybe it had been there for 100 years. They didn't know. But how interesting it is that being in the receiving mode, in other words, Esther had no resistance to any of those things. And so all of them, active in her experience, had to be shown to her. It must be its law. If it's active in you, it has to be shown to you. If it's active in you and you don't have a counter activity, it must be shown to you now. That's the key. So when you hold a desire, it's coming to you. But when you hold a belief that contradicts it, so it's like you're pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing, and then you get tired and you say, life is hard. And we say, no, it isn't. And you say, says who? It's hard for me. And we say, we agree, you've got the hard part. You have the hard part because you've got to live the existing reality while we're asking you to focus upon a vibrational reality. That can be seen as hard. We get that. If you believe so much in what is that you can't let something change, then it can't change.
Well, it's that pulling and pulling. I mean, Esther wasn't part of that conversation. She didn't know what to expect. She was doing her own thing.
Well, she was a part of it in the sense that the words had come out of her mouth. But she was a part of it. She was a part of it in the sense that she had translated the vibration into those. But you're right. That was easy, much easier for her. That woman didn't get any blue glass or butterflies or feathers. She's probably still complaining about Abraham. So what you're saying is, and we don't disagree, you say it's difficult, we say but possible. You say some subjects are very difficult, we say some subjects are easier. You say the things that really matter to me are hard, we say we know, so start on the things that don't matter so much. And that will free you. And it's logical. The things that matter the most are the things that you give the most effort to. And the things that you give the most effort to are the things that you cause the greatest tug of war in. But if you'll just play with some things that you don't care that much about and watch how willing the universe is and how capable you are of receiving it, then you will show yourself what you want those doctors to learn from you that they cannot learn from you. You're probably just planting a seed for them, and someone else and someone else and someone else and someone else, and eventually something will click with them and they will begin to receive it.
So baby steps then. Baby
Getting
steps.
ready, to be 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 ready. And it feels so good in the process. In other words, after a while, you know why we want you to like this idea of being ready to be ready to be ready to be ready? So many reasons, but the biggest one. The reason that we want you to embrace the idea of being ready to be ready to be ready is because you're not ever going to get it done. So something manifests, but a whole bunch of things that you want still haven't manifested. And if you need them to all have manifested before you will allow yourself to be glad, you're not ever going to be glad. You got to be glad here and here and here and here and here and here and here. You got to be glad along the way. A woman told us a story the other day. She wanted to come to one of these gatherings. We were holding it in Chicago at the time. And she really couldn't afford to be there. And so she was visiting with a friend. And they were having a very positive conversation about the seminar, even though she couldn't afford to come. And so they went about their life as usual. They did so many things together, things that didn't cost money, like going for a walk, focusing on the abundance of the universe that didn't cost money. In other words, they were just having a nice time together on a walk, talking about a seminar that she couldn't afford to go to. And she kept saying to her friend, something will probably come up. Something will probably come up. I'll find a way, was the attitude that she had. And so they're walking along. The trail is covered in leaves. And she looks over, and the light is shining just right, and the wind has blown the leaf just right. And she sees something under the leaves, and she reaches in and comes up with a very large diamond earring. Can't possibly reveal, it's too big, but it was. Many thousands of dollars. Right there. Now, those stories sound made up. It happened to her. She told us in the seminar. She came to the seminar and told us the story, that that's what happened to her. There are all kinds of ways for things to come to you, but you've got to be ready to be ready to be ready to be ready. So if she'd been complaining about not having the money and discouraged about not having the money, she wouldn't have been talking to this friend who is optimistic in nature, and they wouldn't have been on that walk. In other words, you can trace those things back both ways. There are so many opportunities that are missed because your pessimism makes you miss them, and your optimism makes you find them. So if you're willing to be glad about the walk, even though you don't have the money, then the walk may lead to something else, may lead to something else, may lead to something else. In the same seminar, another girl telling the same story almost, wanted to come to the seminar in another city, couldn't afford the flight and the ticket for the seminar. A friend of hers said you could fly standby, and gave her the information for the airline that she worked for. And so she gets to the airport and doesn't get on the flight. And then the next flight gets ready to board, and she doesn't get on that flight either. So her friend says to her, they're on the telephone, maybe you could fly to another city, and then there would be a standby flight from that city to Chicago. So she went to the help desk, and she asked the woman, told her what she was trying to do. And the woman said, you're trying to get to Chicago? Wait just a minute. She left, came back. She said, I think I have a flight for you. Gave her a boarding pass, sent her to a gate. When the girl got on the airplane, she was the only passenger on the plane. It was a plane being moved from one airport to another, and no passengers. But because she was ready to be ready to be ready, her timing was just right. She talked to the right person who knew the right thing. She got on the airplane. The flight attendant did the entire safety demonstration just for her. And then the captain came on the plane and said, good morning, ma'am. All kinds of things that are prizes and delights can come to you when you are in a place of letting them in. And that's really the point of this conversation. You got to let it in, because you've already done step one. You've asked. Your life has queued so much up for you. And Source has already done that part, the answering. It's already there. It's already ripe and ready for the plucking. You've just got to find a way to not feel the absence of it. Which means, in many cases, you have to look at something stupid, something that doesn't matter. something that is unimportant to you, something that you don't care that much about.